In 1976, Mel Evans, the road manager of the Beatles, contacted his co-writer John Horini, revealing his work on a biography containing explicit confirmation of McCartney's death and replacement. John believed that Evan had lost his mind, thinking the claim was absurd. MI5 handler ordered expended neutralization via location police contact. Scene staged as a mental breakdown, firearm planted for justification, manuscript seized and classified. In 1980, John Lennon was assassinated by a man by the name of Mark Chapman, who was a MI5 member. He'd previously considered multiple people, like Johnny Carson, Ronald Reagan, and Paul McCartney, to assassinate. But eventually he landed on John Lennon after his comments about the Beatles being bigger than Jesus. His motives were more put on John Lennon after the phone call in late November of 1980, where he called Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, telling them that he will reveal the truth, which is that Paul McCartney had died in a car crash on September 11th, 1966. MI5 later found out about this and sent a man by the name of Mark Chapman from their base in Hawaii. They flew him out to New York City, where Mark Chapman met John Lennon and had his autograph taken. And there he realized that he was a nicer person than it seemed to be to him, but it was too late. After the manipulation drugs, you can go look up mind control hippie drugs or the mind control government project. Anyway, he was told by MI5 to kill John Lennon. In early December of 1980, he pulled the trigger on John Lennon, a day after getting his autograph. John Lennon would walk into the building and fall down dead on the stairs. He'd be rushed to the hospital, where he was declared dead on arrival. In 1993, 13 years after John Lennon was killed, Heather Mills, originally known as Rita, who was in the car when Paul McCartney crashed after she had made a fan frenzy and drove Paul McCartney down the wrong road and through a red light, where he was, of course, hit by a yellow truck. Luckily, she got out alive, but he wasn't as lucky. And in 1992, she threatened to go public about the Paul is dead conspiracy theory, like John Lennon in 1980. Paul McCartney would call Ringo and George, and they would later notify MI5 of this. MI5 would then send someone to run her over with a car. She lost her left leg that day and would go on to marry Paul McCartney. In 1999, On December 31st, 1999, a man by the name of Michael Abrams jumped over the gate at the George Harrison residence and broke into George Harrison's house while him, George Harrison, and his wife, Olivia Harrison, were sleeping. Then George Harrison would come downstairs and would be stabbed over 40 times, exactly 41 times, and would be hospitalized. Luckily, Olivia Harrison blocked some of the shots that he took, therefore making sure that her husband hadn't died. And George Harrison would later die from cancer in November of 2001. That agent, Michael Abrams, was a similar case to Mark Chapman. He was controlled by his motives. To sound crazy, Mark Chapman was supposed to be declared insane so he wouldn't get arrested. So he can serve the rest of his time at MI5. Mark Chapman wasn't as lucky as Michael Abrams because he would be put into a sane asylum. Later would be released by MI5 agents around in July of 2002. In 1969, before the Paul's Dead conspiracy theory began, Terry Knight released the song St. Paul after meeting Paul McCartney. This is to be believed by many conspiracy theorists who believe the Paul's Dead conspiracy theory to reference Paul's death, which it does. And because of this, MI5 wanted to take him out. But they kept saying, no, let's not do that. And they held it off for a very long time. After many, many years, they made sure that Terry Knight's daughter would meet someone, and that person would be the man who would go on to kill Terry Knight after an argument in, I believe, 2004, but I could be wrong. This was done so Terry Knight couldn't tell us if it was a Paul's Dead song or not. So he couldn't confirm it and tell the public. Reason why it was done then was because he had kept threatening Paul McCartney that he would release evidence that Paul McCartney had died in 1966, the real Paul McCartney. And he would also reveal that the song St. Paul was really a Paul's Dead song, which had multiple evidence towards it. He would later be shot by the man on the screen. After some digging, this photo may not be of the murderer. Instead, this may be of Terry Knight. Rather, it is or isn't, can't be confirmed by myself. Like many others who were on the screen, except when that woman, who is Heather Mills, also known as Rita, was on the screen.